What if I told you fame might be the most dangerous drug in the world? Not heroin, not alcohol, not pills, but attention, the kind that floods your phone with notifications, fills your brain with dopamine, and wraps your identity in numbers, followers, likes, views. There was this kid, just another face in the crowd. Nobody knew his name on Monday. By Tuesday, he was everywhere. His face, his voice, his joke viral. It hit hard. Millions watched. People called him the next big thing. For a moment, he believed it too. But by Friday, the internet had moved on. No calls, no messages, just silence. And the worst part? He kept refreshing his phone like a gambler pulling a lever that stopped paying out. He vanished. The fame fantasy is seductive. We think if enough people know our name, it'll mean something, that it'll prove we're worth something. But deep down, you have to wonder, why do we want everyone to know our name? What are we really chasing? Validation? Power? Immortality? Think about it. In today's world, being known feels like a shortcut to everything. Money, love, respect, opportunity, all in one package. That's the dream, right? But here's the catch. It's not real. Fame is a mirror held up by strangers. It reflects what they want to see, not who you are. And the moment you stop being what they expect, they stop looking. That's not love. That's a transaction. And it's exhausting. Everyone's chasing clout. I want to blow up. I need to go viral. If I just hit that one trend, it'll change my life. But what happens after the trend fades? What happens when you're no longer on the screen? Who are you when the likes disappear? That silence is louder than you think. Most people never stop to question it. They just run harder, post more, scream louder, trying to stay relevant. But somewhere in that noise, they lose themselves. Fame isn't free. It costs your peace, your identity, sometimes your soul. This obsession isn't new. 500 years ago, a man sat alone in exile. Once a political insider, now cast out, betrayed, forgotten. And in that darkness, he started writing. Not for attention, not for fame, but for truth. His name was Niccolo Machiavelli. And though he lived in a time before TikTok, before television, even before the printing press reached most people, he understood something about human nature that still haunts us today. He saw through the illusion. He knew what people were willing to trade just to be seen. To truly understand why chasing fame is a trap, we need to meet the man who understood power better than anyone else, Machiavelli. Most people think of Machiavelli as some cold-blooded puppet master, the guy behind every shady politician, a name you drop when someone's being ruthless. But that's not who he really was. Niccolo Machiavelli was a man who knew power because he lost it. He started out as a diplomat in Florence, navigating one of the most dangerous political landscapes in history. He was clever, strategic, respected. He negotiated with kings, popes, mercenaries. He understood how the world worked behind the curtain. But then everything fell apart. The Medici family returned to power. Machiavelli was accused of conspiracy. He was arrested, tortured, thrown out. He lost his position, his influence, his city. He was exiled to the countryside, forced to live in isolation with nothing but his thoughts and his bitterness. That's when he wrote The Prince. Not as a manual for cruelty, not as a guide to evil, but as a reflection of what he had seen. The raw, unfiltered truth of human ambition, the games people play, the masks they wear, the way power moves silently, slipping through cracks when you least expect it. He wasn't romantic. He was real. He stripped away the illusions, exposing how the world actually works, not how we wish it would. In his eyes, power was neither good nor evil. It was a force, and if you didn't understand it, it would crush you. That's what made Machiavelli dangerous, not because he encouraged manipulation, but because he revealed it. Fame, like power, is deceptive. It seduces. It flatters. It convinces you that you're untouchable, that you're special, until it turns. And when it does, it doesn't just disappear, it devours you. Machiavelli saw that dynamic long before the age of celebrity. He saw how people craved glory, even if it cost them everything. He saw how rulers fell not because of their enemies, but because they believed their own hype. There's a reason he never trusted popularity. Crowds change their minds fast. Today they cheer. Tomorrow they throw stones. He once wrote, "Men are so simple and so much creatures of circumstance that the deceiver will always find someone willing to be deceived." That's not a warning about others being fooled. It's about us how easily we believe in the version of ourselves that others applaud. We build identities out of compliments. We chase praise like it's purpose. We crave recognition more than truth. That's what Machiavelli was trying to show. He wasn't writing for kings, he was writing for survivors. For anyone trying to stay afloat in a world that rewards illusion and punishes authenticity. He didn't care if you were loved, he cared if you lasted. He didn't care if your name was trending, he cared if your name meant something once the noise stopped. He understood that fame-like power isn't something you hold. It's something that holds you, and once you let it define you, it owns you. So, what did he really say? About chasing appearances, glory, and validation. Fame feels like power. That's the illusion. It wraps around you like a spotlight, warm, addictive, convincing. It makes you feel chosen, elevated, safe. But Machiavelli knew better. He saw that kind of power for what it really was: borrowed, not owned. In The Prince, he wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." That line gets quoted all the time, but most people forget what he was actually warning against. He wasn't glorifying fear. He was exposing love from the masses for what it really is: conditional, unpredictable, and fleeting. Because when you build your identity on the love of the crowd, you build it on sand. One day, you're trending. Your face is on every feed. People share your words, remix your content, shout your name. You feel unstoppable. But Machiavelli would whisper, "Be careful. That applause, it's not loyalty, it's momentum." And momentum turns. He saw it in the courts of Italy. One moment, a ruler was celebrated like a god. The next, he was exiled, poisoned, forgotten. The crowd didn't change because the ruler changed. They changed because they were bored. Because someone newer, shinier, louder came along. Sound familiar? Today, we call it cancel culture. We call it the algorithm. We call it clout chasing. But it's the same game Machiavelli witnessed 500 years ago, just with faster Wi-Fi. He warned us, though not in tweets or TikToks, in ink, in cold, careful language, in truths too sharp for comfort. He warned us, they will love you fast, but turn even faster. Fame thrives on attention, and attention is the most fragile currency there is. It doesn't matter what you did last year, last month, or even yesterday. All that matters is now. And if you're not lighting up the screen today, you might as well not exist. Think about that. All your effort, your ideas, your presence wiped out by a scroll. And yet, people keep chasing it. Why? Because fame gives you the illusion of control. It makes you believe that if you just gain enough followers, if you hit enough views, you'll finally feel safe, validated, seen. But what Machiavelli teaches us is this control built on the crowd's approval is no control at all. It's a leash. One you wrap around your own neck. You build a castle on sand and call it a palace. That's how he'd put it. You stack likes like bricks, thinking they'll protect you. But when the tide comes in, it all washes away. No one remembers the architect. They just move to the next shiny thing. And every compliment you once lived for, every retweet that made your day, each one becomes a ghost, a whisper, a reminder that your relevance was rented, not owned. That's the trap. Not fame itself, but what we think it means. We confuse recognition with value. We think being known means being loved, that being watched means being respected. But to Machiavelli, the crowd's love was never love. It was leverage, a tool to be used carefully, never depended on. He didn't say fame was worthless. He said it was dangerous, because it tricks you into thinking you matter more than you do, and then turns on you the moment you slip. Machiavelli saw it in the palaces. We see it in the comment sections. Different settings, same drama. The deeper truth is this: if your worth is tied to applause, then silence becomes a death sentence. And yet we keep performing. We post, we scroll, we adjust ourselves to fit the current mood of the crowd. We play characters, we filter our faces and our feelings. Not because we want to, but because we're afraid of what happens if we stop. Fame becomes armor and prison. The more you chase it, the more it owns you. The more you let it define you, the harder it is to find yourself beneath the performance. He warned us. But what happens when you make fame your identity? When the crowd disappears, who are you? There's a moment most creators never talk about. It's not the first viral hit, not the rise, not even the hate. It's the silence after the noise fades. You wake up one day, post something just like always. But this time, no one reacts. No surge of comments, no shares, no spike in views, just stillness. And in that stillness, something deeper stirs. You don't feel ignored. You feel invisible. At first, you try to shake it off. Maybe it's the algorithm. Maybe the timing was off. You keep posting, keep tweaking, keep trying to chase that high again, but it doesn't come. And slowly, the realization creeps in. You were never addicted to success. You were addicted to being seen. That's the real trap. Fame doesn't just change how others see you. It changes how you see yourself. You start defining your worth by what the crowd reflects back. And when that reflection disappears, so does your sense of self. Machiavelli never used the word fame the way we do today, but he understood the danger of needing to be seen. He warned of becoming too dependent on appearances, too entangled in the need for recognition. In his world, rulers who lived for glory became prisoners of it. Their power wasn't real, it was theatrical. Their survival depended not on who they were, but on who people believed them to be. Isn't that what so many of us do now? We create a version of ourselves for the feed. Polished, precise, designed to catch eyes, spark comments, trigger envy. And when it works, we feel alive, we feel chosen. But deep down, a quiet fear grows what happens when this version isn't enough anymore. I once met a creator who had it all: millions of views, brand deals, public love. He was magnetic. People quoted his videos, followed his every move. But when the numbers started to drop, so did he. Not just online, mentally, emotionally. He told me the scariest part wasn't losing followers. It was realizing he didn't know who he was without them. He said, "I didn't miss the fame. I missed being seen." That hit me, because in that sentence, there's a truth we all feel but rarely admit. Being seen makes us feel real, valid, worthy. And the moment that spotlight shifts seven slightly, it's like part of us disappears with it. This is the inner trap Machiavelli hinted at. Not the politics, not the public games, but the personal war, the slow erosion of identity that happens when your value is tied to visibility. He knew that, to survive, truly survive, you couldn't let the crowd define you. You had to be anchored in something deeper, something that didn't change with every wave of applause or criticism. That's not easy, especially today, when everything feels like a performance, when silence feels like failure, when rest feels like irrelevance. But ask yourself, when no one's watching, are you still you? Do you still create? Still speak? Still move with purpose? Or do you wait for permission to exist? If you've ever felt this ache for validation, this quiet panic when the attention fades, you're not alone. Have you ever felt this too? Let it out in the comments. This is your space. No filters, no performance, just truth. Because Machiavelli didn't chase fame. He chased understanding. And that is where we turn next. If Machiavelli were alive today, he wouldn't be chasing clout. You wouldn't see him dancing on TikTok or live streaming every waking thought. He wouldn't flood your feed with hot takes, thirst traps, or clickbait. He'd be quiet, watching, listening, studying how the crowd moves so fast it loves, how fast it forgets. And he wouldn't try to be seen. He'd try to understand. That was always his real obsession, not glory, not attention, but clarity. He wanted to see the world as it really was, not how people pretended it to be. If you asked him about social media fame, he'd probably raise an eyebrow and say something simple, something sharp. The wise man acts and lets the world react, not the other way around. Think about that. Most people live in reverse. We post, then wait. We speak, then hope. We measure the value of our thoughts, our days, even ourselves, based on the world's reaction. Every comment, every like, every follower becomes a signal. Am I doing enough? Am I being enough? But Machiavelli would remind you, power doesn't come from reaction. It comes from intention. You don't become powerful by being noticed. You become powerful by knowing who you are when no one is looking. That's the real shift. That's the escape. Not from fame itself, but from needing it to feel whole. Because here's the truth. Most people chase attention because they don't trust their own value. They hope the crowd will confirm it. But the crowd is fickle. And when it doesn't show up, they collapse. What if instead you could stand without applause? What if you didn't need to be seen to feel solid? That's the kind of strength Machiavelli respected. The quiet kind. The type built from within, not borrowed from a trend. The type that doesn't need permission to exist. Silence is underrated. Not every spotlight is meant for you. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is not respond, not post, not explain. Just build. In the dark. With purpose. Fame is a fog. It makes you forget what matters. But when you step back, when you let the noise settle, you remember. You remember that real value isn't loud. It's consistent. Real influence doesn't scream. It moves. This isn't about quitting. It's about recalibrating. You can still create, still speak, still share your voice with the world. But do it because it means something to you, not because it checks a box or hits a metric. When your work flows from your core, not from your fear, that's when it resonates. That's when it lasts. Machiavelli would say, stop asking what the crowd wants. Start asking what the world needs and whether you're willing to give it, even if no one claps. That's power. That's freedom. And that's the escape from the trap. If this hit home, give this video a like. And if you're on your own journey of breaking free from the fame trap, subscribe. We're in this together.